Gerald P. Kramer had been living in the neighborhood for nearly 60 years. His wife had only lasted 18. Every morning, he would step into the bathroom and get ready for the day, and memories of his wife would visit him. Adriana had known what kind of man Gerald was when she married him, but she truly believed she could change him. He really hadn't been a bad husband. He doted on her and gave her everything she ever wanted. Except for one thing. Eventually, she gave up trying to convince him that adoption was a perfectly viable option for couples like them. Over the years, she grew less and less interested in day-to-day affairs like cooking, cleaning, and even basic hygiene. Her laziness, as he called it, sparked some arguments, but he never laid a hand on her. She eventually did that herself. Adriana's exit via the bathtub came one day while Gerald was out of town on business. Images of the scene he came home to that horrible day almost 40 years ago greeted him on mornings when his guard was lowered. On those rare occasions, he'd sit on the edge of the bathtub looking into it and sob like he'd done on that awful day all those years ago. On those days, he couldn't bring himself to step foot into the tub. Disheveled and feeling lost, he'd eventually make his way onto the front porch, where he spent most of his time, smoking and making snide judgments, mostly to himself, on the microcosm that was suburban life. Those were the days he was most likely to rail against, in his words, the spoiled snot-nosed brats that littered the neighborhood like little bits of garbage. His seething rants on those days created the latticework for the myths of the decrepit monster of a man all the children called Mr. Withers. Halloween was coming soon, and he couldn't wait for it to pass. He hated the holiday with a passion, even before, as he put it, those snot-nosed delinquents in their run-down neighborhood started defacing my property. He'd put an end to that last year, and he didn't figure any of them would be brazen enough to try it again. Still, he'd be standing sentinel on his porch that night, primed to swing his cane at any stupid kid dumb enough to step foot on his porch with a bag of dog crap or a lighter. He stood up, swinging his cane at nothing in particular, and yelled into the neighborhood, "You rotten little punks better stay or clear this year if you know what's good for ya." No one appeared to be out in the neighborhood at that moment, but it didn't matter to Gerald. He knew that little brat that instigated the pumpkin tossing 2 years ago was within earshot somewhere nearby. He was the only kid that didn't cross to the far side of the street to pass his house. Sometimes he would even park his bike on the sidewalk and glare at him. He was wise to that one and his antics. He spotted him a while back, dumping a soup can full of slugs in his garden, and it dawned on him why his strawberries had done so poorly the year before. He didn't recognize him at the time, but now he was convinced he'd seen him before. Of course, he couldn't really be sure of that. They all looked the same to him, except for Tammy Swanson, whom he liked to yell, "Eat a salad at," when she passed by. When he was a child, he respected his elders and feared them as well, but all he seemed to elicit in the children was fear. That was fine by him. He supposed fear was a kind of respect. He was convinced kids these days didn't know what the word respect meant anyway. They needed a healthy bit of fear drummed into them now and again to keep them in their place. Even though he felt it really was the parents' fault, their kids were such little jerks. He stuck to the strategy he'd always used, terrorizing their children. Idiot kids nearly burned my house down with all those damn orange projectiles. Useless vegetables, the pumpkin. You'd think they would have thought to put out the candle in them before they went tossing them into my bushes. It's a sad world we live in, when parents are too busy trying to be best buddies instead of teaching their kids proper behavior. Seen and not heard was the rule in my day. His thoughts went on like that, with a word or two occasionally blurted out loud, until he went inside to try and void his bowels. Ricky poked his head around the corner of the house, counted to 10, and then quietly slipped onto the porch. He tossed Gerald's cigars into the bushes, dumped his drink, scattered a few cat hairs on the table, and then stole away as quietly as he'd come. The strategy of 1,000 annoyances, as he called it, was his favorite pastime, and what he loved most about it was the old fart didn't have a clue all those little accidents over the years weren't anything of the sort. Ricky's favorite month of the year was in full swing, and he'd been racking his brain for the penultimate trick to top off his final year of trick-or-treating. Mr. Withers was going to get it one more time, and he was going to get it good if Ricky had anything to do about it. He nearly bubbled over with excitement every time an idea came to mind. But nothing yet seemed right. He was going to hit Mr. Get Away From My Lawn's house so hard the neighborhood would still be talking about it when he set off for college. Didn't even matter to Ricky if his parents grounded him until then. He was dead set on it, and nothing was going to stop him. He was small for his age, but his ability to outwit sixth graders, some adults as well, and come up with a creative prank put him at the top of the food chain in his 5th grade class. Kids listened to him, and you could even say they feared him. His teacher, Mrs. Viskel, often remarked to her colleagues, "I see a bright future in politics for that one." Less than 3 months into the school year, and he had already brought her nearly to tears twice. She was strongly considering retiring next year. Last October, the grumpy old man had gotten a reprieve because Paul Clark had forgotten to extinguish the candle in his jack-o'-lantern the year before. Ricky shamed Paul at school the next day for screwing up his trick and sent him to eat lunch alone for the rest of the week. The next year, he reminded Paul of his screw-up and made him sit elsewhere for the entire month of October. One day, while Ricky was pulling a rusty nail out of his old 2x4 hammer and putting it into one of Mr. Withers' tires, the perfect trick just popped into his head. Actually, it was 2 tricks. While he enacted the prank at hand, he thought through the details of the ultimate Halloween trick. It involved a maneuver he'd learned about in history class called a feint. Halloween was fast approaching, and he needed everyone on board if this plan was going to work. So, he forgave Paul for his past mistake. The kid had been punished enough, and Ricky figured letting him out of the doghouse would make him more amenable to a special task he had for him. There was no way Ricky was going to let Old Man Withers off the hook this year. No way in hell.
Good evening, everyone. It's me, Dr. Plague. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's show. If you think you might like a little more spooky in your life, then please feel free to click on one of the videos we have up here. Maybe look at one of the playlists if you're trying to get caught up. I know, there's so many videos on the channel. There's so many series that are going at the same time. Sometimes you just need a little refresher course, and I gotta say, I always enjoy the views. If you're not subscribed, feel free to hit that subscribe button, maybe hit the bell so you don't miss anything, We upload a lot on this channel, so you won't want to miss a single story as they come out. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click on the Amazon link down there. There's quite a few books in my Amazon account. You can have a look, and if you'd like a signed copy, get up with me through email, and I'll be happy to work something out with you. Also, there's links to my Patreon, and you can become a member on the channel if you'd like your spooky a little bit early. Patrons and members on the $5 tier get their videos 12 hours early. That's in the morning as opposed to in the evening. Patrons at the $10 level also get a signed copy of my book anytime I write one. Speaking of my patrons, you should see them appearing right now. Just wanted to take a minute to say how much I appreciate all of you. Patrons, subscribers, however you give to the channel. I really appreciate everything you do, and it truly touches me that you have chosen to support the channel in this way. Well, that's enough for now. Till next time, Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.